Luxury didn't start on Instagram. It didn't start with influencers. It didn't even start with Wall Street. Status has always existed, but the form it takes changes. And every time status changes, spending changes. And when spending changes, your bottom line changes. Before the industrial age, status was inherited. Land, titles, family names. If you were born into wealth, it showed. Large estates, formal dress, exclusive circles. If you weren't born into it, you weren't in it. There was no illusion of mobility. You had status, or you didn't. And because it was inherited, most people didn't chase it. They accepted their place. Then came the industrial age. Factories, railroads, oil. Suddenly, wealth could be built. The Gilded Age created new money. Industrial tycoons, magnates, entrepreneurs. Status shifted from inherited to accumulated, and display became louder. Large mansions, extravagant parties, public philanthropy. Status became visible, and visibility began to matter. After World War II, something changed again. The middle class expanded, suburbs grew, mortgages became common, appliances, cars, and televisions filled homes. Status became local. It became neighbor-based. This was the era of keeping up with the Joneses, not kings, not tycoons, the Joneses next door. Status became comparison, and comparison became consumption. Bigger house, newer car, better lawn. It felt attainable, but it also increased pressure, because now status wasn't inherited. It was financed. Then came the corporate era, the 1980s and 1990s. Power suits, corner offices, stock options, luxury cars and parking garages. Status became career-based. Your title defined your worth, and consumption followed income, more visible reward. The tax form began reflecting the shift. Higher wages, higher spending, higher lifestyle expectations. Then the internet changed everything. Social media collapsed distance. Status stopped being local. It became global. Now you're not comparing yourself to your neighbor. You're comparing yourself to someone on another continent. Luxury became algorithmic. Cars, watches, private jets, six-figure months. Hustle culture. Now status isn't just wealth, it's performance. Performance of wealth. And performance requires visibility. Here's what changed underneath all of this. Margin. Every era of status affects margin differently. Old money had margin because wealth was inherited. Industrial wealth had margin because businesses produced excess. Suburban status reduced margin because consumption increased. Corporate status tied margin to salary growth. Algorithmic luxury compresses margin because comparison is constant, and constant comparison drives constant spending. This is where the tax form becomes interesting, because the tax form doesn't lie. It doesn't care about aesthetics. It records income. It records profit. It records adjustments. It records net. Your return becomes a quiet record of your participation in status culture. If your income rises but your savings rate doesn't, status may be eating margin. If your expenses rise with every raise, comparison may be steering decisions. If quarterly taxes create panic, it may not be because of complexity. It may be because margin is thin, and thin margin often traces back to lifestyle choices. Now, this is an anti-luxury. There is nothing wrong with enjoying success. Luxury has its place. Expression has its place. Hard work deserves reward. But misalignment has consequences. When spending is driven by identity confusion, margin shrinks. When margin shrinks, flexibility disappears. When flexibility disappears, financial independence moves further away. FIRE, financial independence, retire early, is not a flex culture. It's a margin culture. It prioritizes control over display. It values optionality over applause. And optionality requires space. Space in cash flow. Space in savings. Space in tax planning. The quiet millionaire next door wasn't flashy. That wasn't an accident. It was structural. Lower consumption. Higher savings rate. Disciplined investing. Their tax returns likely showed steady income. Controlled spending. Growing assets. No performance required. So what does this mean today? It means you have to ask a different question. Not, can I afford this? But, what line does this move? Does it increase taxable income without increasing savings? Does it increase expenses without increasing profit? Does it reduce margin? Does it delay independence? Status culture evolved, but the math hasn't. Income minus expenses equals margin. Margin determines savings rate. Savings rate determines freedom. That equation hasn't changed in 200 years. Only the aesthetics have. And here's the irony. In the pre-industrial age, most people couldn't chase status. In the social media age, everyone feels like they must. But financial independence doesn't require performance. It requires structure. Your tax return is the most honest biography you'll ever write. It records the choices. It shows the margin. It reveals alignment or drift. If you study it yearly, you see patterns. If you ignore it, you repeat patterns. Status isn't the enemy. Unexamined status is. So before chasing the next visible upgrade, pause. Ask, what line does this move? And does that move bring independence closer or push it further away? Luxury used to live in country clubs. Now it lives in your phone. But freedom has always lived in the margin. And margin has always been quiet. Subscribe if you want calm, practical money thinking. And drop a comment with the most common status pressure you feel. House, car, vacations, clothes, anything. I'll build an episode around the top one.